They fired the only woman who knew how to run the company and broke an $80 million factory in less than 24 hours. Lin Miao spent 3 years building Q-Yuan Group's fully automated assembly lines from the ground up. But when the founder's arrogant daughter returns from abroad with an MBA, she fires Lin Miao on the spot, replacing her with an elite CTO who doesn't understand the real code. When the factory explodes into chaos and an $80 million contract hangs in the balance, they realize the ultimate truth. You can buy titles, but you can't fake genius. Watch what happens when corporate arrogance hits a wall of pure engineering reality. Chapter 1. The Sabotage of Silent Work. The main display panel of Line 3 in the assembly building flashed a harsh, steady crimson. Across the 20,000 square meter floor of Q-Yuan Group's primary manufacturing site, 300 robotic arms sat completely motionless, frozen mid-arc like steel statues. Inside the central control room, the climate control hummed against a wall of rising temperature and panic. Position 3 transmission is lagging. A technician shouted, his fingers flying across a mechanical keyboard. Machine 2 just hard rebooted 3 times in 6 minutes. System throwing error code SS. I've been running this floor for 6 years, and I haven't seen that code once. Wu Misha didn't look at the technician. Freshly returned from completing her MBA in the United States and newly installed as executive vice president, she stood with her arms crossed, her heels clicking rhythmically against the epoxy floor. Beside her stood Tang Peng, her newly recruited chief technology officer, holding a tailored suit jacket over one arm and sipping a black Americano. It's a minor buffer overload, Tang Peng said, gesturing dismissively with his coffee cup. Standard legacy code rot. When you build infrastructure using local, self-taught patchworks instead of unified international architectures, these bottlenecks are mathematically inevitable. Clear the cache and force a system restart. We can't just restart it. The floor's supervisor pleaded, wiping sweat from his forehead. Lin Miao left explicit instructions on the control board before she was moved. If line 3 drops under continuous load, forced reboots clear the volatile registers. The underlying clock synchronization will drift, and the entire multi-axis array will lock up permanently. Wu Misha turned slowly, her eyes cold. Lin Miao is no longer the technical director of this facility. She is an administrative clerk currently assigned to the archive basement. Her opinions on automated control systems are irrelevant to current operations. Dr. Tang holds a doctorate from MIT. Are you suggesting a basement file clerk understands our proprietary logic better than an international scholar? President Wu, with all respect. Override the safety lock, Tang Peng commanded, stepping up to the master terminal. I'll input the structural bypass parameters myself. He leaned over the console, pulling up a text file he had extracted earlier that morning from a notebook confiscated during Lin Miao's office clearance. On page 14, tucked between complex system diagrams, were 4 handwritten floating-point strings, 0.00314, 1.0482, 88.012, and 0.0009. Without running a simulation build or verifying the signal bus state, Tang Peng entered the values directly into the core register, executed a warm bypass, and hit the global clear. For 3 seconds, the room was silent. Then, deep beneath the concrete floor, a low, grinding shudder resonated through the structural foundations. High above the assembly lines, the main overhead breakers tripped in rapid succession with reports like gunshot cracks. Every indicator screen on the main grid turned solid black, replaced a moment later by a single, pulsing line of system terminal output. Fatal, hardware clock harmonic desynchronization. Core registers paralyzed. What did you just do? The supervisor whispered, dropping his tablet. Tang Peng's face lost all color as he stared at the dead terminal. That's impossible. Those were her calibration numbers. She wrote them down. Those weren't production parameters, you absolute fool, a calm voice called out from the open doorway of the control room. Lin Miao stood there, holding a cardboard storage box filled with her personal desk items. She wore simple blue jeans and a canvas jacket, completely detached from the panic suffocating the room. Those numbers were static diagnostic values for isolated offline testing under a zero-load state, Lin Miao said smoothly, stepping into the room. The fully automated system uses underlying clock signals that generate microharmonic interference after 9 hours of continuous operation. My third senior brother, Lu Mingyan, designed the base hardware logic. I spent 3 years writing a dynamic algorithm that constantly compensates for that 0.3 millisecond drift while the line runs. She walked up to the master console, glanced at the fried circuit board indicators, and set her box down on the edge of the desk. When you force those static numbers into a live system under full load, you didn't fix the lag. You forced the master clock to attempt an instantaneous 0-point realignment while 40 tons of pneumatic machinery were drawing peak current. You blew the core control modules across all 6 assembly lines. Wu Misha's composure cracked. Then fix it. You're still an employee of this company, Lin Miao. Fix it right now. Lin Miao looked at Wu Misha, then at Tang Peng, whose hands were visibly shaking near the dead keyboard. Fix it. Lin Miao gave a small, quiet laugh. President Wu, when you fired me from the tech department 2 days ago, you told the entire board that no single individual is irreplaceable, and that international management theory renders local technical talent obsolete. You sealed my office, blacklisted my access tokens, and assigned me to digitize paper files in the basement. She picked her box back up, hugging it against her chest. To repair this failure now requires a complete physical rebuild of the primary bus architecture and a total reflashing of the low-level logic boards. It will take at least 30 days. But as your new CTO just assured you, it's just legacy code rot. I'm sure an MIT graduate can handle it. Turning on her heel, Lin Miao walked out of the central control room, her sneakers squeaking softly against the polished floor as the alarm sirens began their continuous, unyielding wail behind her. Chapter 2. The Anatomy of an Exile. The afternoon sun filtered through the high windows of the Mingyang Group executive suite, casting sharp geometric shadows across Lu Mingyan's desk. Lu Mingyan, founder of the nation's largest open-source industrial AI architecture, Forbes Asia 30, under 30 tech leader, and the third of Lin Miao's 3 senior university brothers, sat quietly behind a sweeping minimalist desk. He was casually sipping tea while Lin Miao sat across from him, happily munching through a box of freshly steamed char siu buns she had picked up on her way in. So, Lu Mingyan said, leaning back in his leather chair, they actually let you walk? Not just let me walk, Lin Miao said around a bite of bun. Wu Misha had HR draft a formal termination order, revoked my stock options, and sent a broadcast email across the regional industrial park warning other firms that I was being let go for gross technical incompetence and workplace insubordination. Lu Mingyan raised an eyebrow. And the production line? Completely paralyzed. Tang Peng fed diagnostic baseline values directly into a live clock bus. The entire line's hardware architecture is locked in a hard fault loop. They have $30 million in delivery contracts due by midnight tonight, $50 million more due by Friday, and their NASDAQ IPO filing is scheduled for review next week. Before Lu Mingyan could reply, his desk intercom buzzed sharply. President Lu, his executive assistant's voice came through the speaker, sounding strained. General Manager Wu Misha from Q Yuan Group is downstairs in the lobby. She does not have an appointment, but she is insisting on seeing you immediately regarding an emergency operational matter. She is claiming that failure to see her will result in major legal liability for our firm. Lu Mingyan didn't look at the intercom. He looked at Lin Miao. Want me to have security throw her out? No, Lin Miao smiled slightly, dusting flour from her fingers. Let her up. I want to see what foreign management theory looks like when $80 million of liquid liability hits the balance sheet. Lu Mingyan pressed the intercom button. Send her in. 2 minutes later, the double doors to the executive office burst open. Wu Misha swept into the room, her designer coat fluttering behind her, with Tang Peng trailing closely in her wake. Tang Peng was clutching a thick black leather portfolio, looking exhausted and thoroughly disheveled. Wu Misha stopped dead in her tracks the moment her eyes fell on Lin Miao, who was calmly sipping green tea on the guest sofa. You? Wu Misha's voice dropped an octave, dripping with contempt. What are you doing here? Did you sneak into Mingyang Group's executive headquarters to seek employment after I explicitly blacklisted you? She immediately turned toward Lu Mingyan, adjusting her expression into a polished, professional smile. President Lu, I apologize for the intrusion, but you need to be aware of who you are hosting. This woman was terminated from Q Yuan Group yesterday for gross negligence and intentional destruction of corporate hardware. If she is here attempting to sell our proprietary code or seek a position, I advise you to call campus security immediately. Lu Mingyan did not stand up. He slowly set his teacup back down on its saucer with a tiny, deliberate clink. Miss Wu, Lu Mingyan said, his voice flat and perfectly level. You are standing in my private office, speaking to my guest, in a building owned entirely by my holding firm. Who gave you permission to address anyone in this room? Wu Misha blinked, momentarily thrown off balance. President Lu, we are long-term strategic partners. Q Yuan Group and Mingyang Group have maintained a joint technical agreement for 3 years. I am here as the chief executive of Q Yuan to discuss an urgent hardware integration crisis that requires your personal intervention. There is no joint technical agreement, Lu Mingyan replied smoothly. The room went dead silent. Tang Peng stepped forward, opening his leather portfolio. President Lu, surely you're mistaken. The master framework contract signed 3 years ago between Mingyang and Q Yuan clearly states. That contract, Lu Mingyan interrupted, leaning forward and resting his elbows on the desk, was personally executed by me as a direct favor to my youngest junior sister. It contained a specific, non-transferable technical execution clause. Mingyang Group provided high-tier system architecture and continuous hardware access to Q Yuan Group at zero cost, explicitly contingent upon Lin Miao serving as the chief technical director overseeing system integration. Lu Mingyan stood up, towering over the desk. The moment you revoked her access, terminated her contract, and transferred technical authority to whatever it is you brought in from overseas, Q Yuan Group breached the foundational condition of our partnership. My legal team filed the formal termination of all system support contracts with the Municipal Commercial Court at 8 o'clock this morning. Wu Misha's face turned pale. You canceled our master contract? Over a single engineer? She isn't a single engineer, Lu Mingyan said coldly. She is the individual who built your entire automated operational backbone while you were completing your management degree abroad. She is the sole reason your father's enterprise survived its initial scaling phase. Tang Peng's face turned red. President Lu. This is blatant nepotism. I hold an advanced degree in electrical systems and information management. I have published papers on. You published a theoretical paper on high-level protocol optimization in a low-impact journal 6 years ago. Lin Miao chimed in gently from the sofa, placing her teacup down. And then you spent 3 years in administrative consulting. You haven't touched a physical industrial PLC or rewritten an FPGA system driver in your life, Tang Peng. You shut up. Tang Peng snapped, turning on her. You manipulated the diagnostic notes. You deliberately left false parameters on your desk knowing I would find them. I left my personal research journal in my own locked desk drawer, Lin Miao said, her eyes narrowing. You had security break the lock on my desk, stole my handwritten personal notes, failed to understand basic system engineering notation, and executed high-voltage overrides on a live floor without running a single software check. That isn't sabotage, Tang Peng. That's gross professional incompetence. Wu Misha took a deep, shaky breath, attempting to regain control of her posture. She stepped past Tang Peng, placing both hands flat on Lu Mingyan's desk. President Lu. Let us set aside technical grievances and speak as executives. Q Yuan Group is on the verge of a NASDAQ listing. The potential market cap of our public entity will exceed $2 billion. If our production lines remain down, we face $80 million in immediate breach of contract penalties, and our IPO will be formally rejected by the underwriters. She paused, looking directly into Lu Mingyan's eyes with a calculating smile. I know how the market works. You are a tech leader, but you are also a capitalist. If Mingyan Group steps in today, deploys your senior engineering team to clear our floor locks, and guarantees system stability through our public offering, I am prepared to offer you an immediate 10% equity stake in Q Yuan Group post-listing. She leaned in closer, dropping her voice. Furthermore, my father is currently recovering abroad. As the sole heir and sitting CEO, I am fully empowered to structure this as a permanent corporate alliance. A strategic union between our firms and our leadership would dominate the national industrial automation sector. Lu Mingyan stared at her for 3 full seconds. Then, he slowly turned his head to look at Lin Miao. Meow meow, Lu Mingyan said, his voice laced with genuine disbelief. Did she just offer me a corporate marriage proposal to fix a broken control line? Lin Miao covered her face with both hands, her shoulders shaking with silent laughter. Third senior brother. I think she did. Chapter 3. The Fall of the Unearned Empire. Wu Misha's expression darkened into pure rage. You think this is funny? I am offering you absolute market dominance. I am offering you entry into the top tier of international capital. And you are sitting here laughing with a low-level worker who happened to share a university lab with you? Miss Wu, Lu Mingyan said, his voice dropping all trace of humor, returning to an icy, absolute stillness. You still do not understand where you are, or who you are speaking to. He reached into his desk drawer, pulled out a heavy silver tablet, and tapped the screen twice. 3 years ago, when your father came to my office begging for the hardware architecture that saved Q Yuan from bankruptcy, he didn't bring equity options. He brought a humble request. He said, President Lu, my company lacks core technical capability. But I have recruited a young genius named Lin Miao. If you support her, she will build us a future. Lu Mingyan turned the tablet screen toward Wu Misha. On it was a real-time financial tracking dashboard showing Q Yuan Group's public credit index dropping in sharp red lines. I didn't invest in your father's company, Lu Mingyan continued. I invested in her. Every system protocol running on your floor, every software license granted to your firm, every major client contract signed by your sales team was underwritten by the technical credibility of Lin Miao and the implicit backing of my lab. You didn't return from abroad to clean up bad practices. You returned to inherit a house you didn't build, and the first thing you did was tear out the load-bearing pillar because you didn't like the color of the concrete. The heavy double doors of the office clicked open again. Lu Mingyan's senior assistant stepped inside, followed by 2 uniformed process servers carrying thick white document envelopes. President Lu, the assistant reported. The municipal court has served the formal asset freeze injunctions against Q Yuan Group's regional operating accounts, following the breach of contract filings from their primary logistics partners. Wu Misha gasped, stumbling backward a step. An asset freeze? On what authority? On the authority of the 8 major component suppliers who operate under exclusive licensing from Mingyan Group, Lu Mingyan said calmly. When our technical partnership terminated at 8 o'clock this morning, your right to utilize our proprietary bus drivers ceased legally. Every minute your factory attempted to operate without Lin Miao's authorized access key constituted a direct violation of international intellectual property law. Tang Peng's face was completely ash-gray now. He backed away from the desk, his portfolio slipping from his numb fingers and spilling papers across the floor. President Wu. If the drivers are revoked, the entire system code isn't just locked. It's legally encrypted. We can't even legally attempt a manual rewrite without facing criminal IP theft charges. Shut up. Wu Misha screamed, her professional composure completely shattering. Fix it. I hired you for 3 million yuan a year. Fix the code. He can't fix it, Lin Miao said, standing up from the sofa and brushing down her jacket. Because the master clock encryption key isn't stored in the company's servers, Wu Misha. It's stored right here. Lin Miao tapped her index finger against her own temple. When your father built Q Yuan, he understood something you clearly missed in business school. Technology isn't a commodity you buy off a shelf and hand to an executive with a prestigious diploma. Technology is human capital. It is built line by line, night after night, by people who understand how the metal actually moves. She walked toward the doorway, stopping just beside Wu Misha. You wanted a company governed by pure rules, absolute hierarchy, and international prestige. You wanted to remove bad practices and purge the senior engineers who actually built the foundation. Well, President Wu, congratulations. You now have full control of your company. You have your foreign degree, your foreign management theories, and your MIT chief technology officer. Lin Miao looked Wu Misha dead in the eye, her voice dropping to a quiet, crystal clear whisper. The only thing you don't have is a working production line. Lin Miao walked out into the bright, quiet corridor of the executive floor. Behind her, inside the office, Wu Misha's phone began to ring furiously, a continuous, frantic tone announcing the arrival of dozens of calls from board members, underwriters, and overseas hospital administrators. Lu Mingyan picked up his teacup, took a slow sip, and gestured gently toward the door. Executive Vice President Wu, Lu Mingyan said softly to the frozen woman across his desk. My reception desk has strict instructions regarding uninvited visitors. Please don't force me to have security assist you to the street.